offer, I'm persuaded you should be running a course. Discover is not the best course. I don't think there is such a thing as the best course. But the thing about it that's good, that's really good, is that it is faithful. It is a faithful gospel proclamation, explanation. It doesn't pretend to be anything else but that. That's exactly what it is. It comes with pre-written, excellent follow-up that's usable. It's reliable, dependable.
That was Dave Jensen talking about the Discover course. It's a new course. It's not even out as we recorded, but it's definitely worth getting your head around. I'm Pete Hughes, and you've clicked on the Reach Australia podcast. And in this season, we are looking at different evangelistic tools to fill your missional toolbox with as many resources as possible. I spoke with Dave about the course, what it's about, what his hopes and what he would love to see from it, but also that an evangelistic course is important, but knowing what happens after is really important as well. We pick up the conversation as Dave explains how the course actually works.
Discover is an evangelistic course that runs for 5 weeks or 5 sessions that looks at the core truths of the Christian faith as presented through the Gospel of Luke. So in essence, every week puts an additional sort of, if you like, building a wall, an additional brick in. So week 1 is, who are you? You're made to love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Week 2 is, who is Jesus? He is the one with authority. He is authority over everything. He is the Son of God, but also authority over you. Week 3, what did Jesus do? That he died for your sin. So sin is in every week, but particularly week 3, and the cross. Week 4, the resurrection. Can we know that it happened, and what does it mean? And week 5 is how to respond. So what is a Christian? How do we respond to that? So Discover is 5 sessions in there, and in many respects, it's very similar to if you've ever done a course, Christian Explored or Introducing God or the Life series. There's nothing whiz-bang different particularly about it. There are some distinctives, which we'll get into, but that's the nutshell version of what it is.
But it sounds like it's really digging into the Gospel of Luke. Some of the other ones go through other Gospels. This one seems to be focused on Luke. Is that right?
Correct. This is exclusively in Luke. Yes.
Okay, so why do we need another course? Like, as you said, this is similar to other courses. Why do we need another one?
A couple of reasons for that. Firstly, because there's no shortage of non-Christian people, and so we need an additional, thousands of new courses and books and tracts and resources continually. There's just, I think we can be a bit like, oh, well, we've got something already and that's great, of course, but we want more and more things. Secondly, I'm a believer in courses as the most effective way of seeing non-Christian adults converted to Christ in Australia. I'm persuaded by that through data and experience. So what we want is, I think, to pour a lot of energy into courses, because that is where we're able to see the word in the presence of people over time, and depending on God, sort of play itself out in the lives of non-Christians. Just hundreds and hundreds of non-Christians become Christians through evangelistic courses. The final reason, though, that I want to point to Discover is that it's Aussie. So I've filmed it. Professionally, it's going to be released next year through Matthias Media, and there'll be 2 versions. One will have a script, which you can speak live. The other one is a filmed version. And one of the things that you notice is that there's a lot of English stuff, a little bit of American. There's 1 or 2 Aussie ones, but there's not heaps of Australian material. So this is an Aussie one. I'm speaking at it to a live crowd as if it's in a regular night, but it's filmed excellently. And it will come with a bunch of books and other things around it, which can help people put it on very, very easily to a small room or to a big room. So whether you want to do it live or video, that's the kind of thing. Why the Gospel of Luke? It's not that Luke is better or worse than the others, but I love using the Gospel of Luke evangelistically because of a couple of reasons. But I love some of the unique passages we have in Luke, the thief on the cross, the parables Jesus tells throughout, the lost son, all these sort of things are there in Luke. I like using one gospel in the course because we get the people doing the course to actually read the gospel as you go through instead of, I'll use the word homework. We don't call it homework, but I'll use that kind of word. So I like using one gospel through the course as well.
And it also comes with follow-up as well. Like it's not just those 5 weeks. Is there a follow-up package that's connected to this as well?
Yeah, that's right. So one of the key distinctives that makes an evangelistic course work, and the churches who use them, who see the most people converted, is that you view the evangelistic course as both real life evangelism, people become Christians in it, but it's most effectively utilized when it's actually the front door into a really 6 to 12 months worth of material aimed at evangelizing and then edifying non-Christians to Christ and baby Christians all the way through. So traditionally, Pete, what can often happen is people will run a course, they'll run it for however long it goes for, and then if anyone wants to keep investigating, they'll throw them into a regular Bible study group or growth group who may be doing Ezekiel or Leviticus or any number of things that they're doing there. And it's entirely inappropriate for a brand new Christian or often a still not yet converted Christian to go into those groups. So the churches who see the most conversions have just very simply designed so the attendees come to the course, and at the end of the course they say, hey, come back next week, and you form your own sort of evangelistic Bible study group there. Now, in partnership with Matthias Media, and one of the key reasons why I was delighted to release this through Matthias Media, is that we've put together a year's worth of follow-up material for these Bible study groups. Matthias Media, of course, are the people who originally published and have still published Just for Starters, the 7 basic Bible studies. That's there. Simply Christianity is going to be one of them as well. And then there's other studies through Ephesians, overview of the Old Testament, Jesus through the Old Testament, so that you've got enough resources and material there to use in a Bible study with brand new, not yet, and brand new Christians for a year. And so that you've got those resources there. When it comes to evangelism in Australia, it's often said people are starting further back. Now, that's true. But the mistake to make is to think because they're starting further back, we need to start our evangelism further back and do sort of 6 week of pillow fluffing and, going, oh, you're special. Do you want to go to heaven? No. We don't need to start further back. We need to go further on with people. We need to walk with people slowly and help them understand the truth of Jesus. So that's what Discover is. It's a package of, 5 weeks of the course, but really there's another 40 weeks of material that comes with it that you're able to utilize in those small groups.
I love that. I think it's great because often we kind of do, we do a 5-week course, 6-week course, and then we do another 6-week follow-up course. But it really it takes a year. It takes a while for people's the gospel just to seep into people's way of thinking, the way they live, and to understand things. So
Amen. That's exactly right. And I just want to say as well that it's one of those wonderful moments where you get to establish and equip brand new Christians, and often they finish the year's worth of sort of that follow-up in a far better place spiritually than many of the Christians we've had who've joined us from other churches. And you've also taught them the pattern of church life, that, hey, to be a Christian is to be someone who meets during the week. And if they haven't started coming on a Sunday, you can, by week 4 or 5 of the follow-up, you start really encouraging and working out ways to get everyone start coming to church. And by 7 or 8 weeks, everyone is coming to church on a Sunday, coming to a midweek group. So you've established the pattern of life for them. At the end of the year, then one of the things that you do is you just then treat them as someone who's a Christian move into your church, what you'd normally do. You take them to a membership course or to an onboard or, newish type course, and you move them into a regular growth group. But these times with brand new Christians are so crucial and critical. We can't rush it. And the only reason we would, by the way, is because of disorganization. I think we wouldn't intentionally want to ever do that. So this is hopefully providing things to make it as easy as possible for you to be able to actually convert and care for the most amount of people.
When you developed this, was there a particular people group or people that you had in mind that you wanted to reach through this?
Well, my story into evangelistic courses actually is a bit interesting. I'll just give you a bit of a snapshot. My first job in evangelism was at a church called Multicultural Bible Ministry, MBM, in Western Sydney, a well-known church to the Reach network. And that has 70 different nationalities across around 1,200 people. So a big church, very, very rich multicultural church with a lot of people, first, second generation migrants from all over the world. And it was here where I first saw there was a course explaining Christianity ran that was incredibly effective in connecting with people from all types of backgrounds, so long as you speak and you use a PowerPoint presentation at the same time, give them a booklet or whatever it is. And and you're actually explaining things not in a simplistic way, but in a simple, straightforward way. And it connected really deeply with people from a multicultural background, and it still does wonderfully. I then moved to Belfast in Northern Ireland. And Northern Ireland, Pete, have you ever been there before?
I have not. My family is actually Irish, but I've never actually been to Ireland myself. Yep.
Like, of course they're Irish. Everyone's Irish. I mean, listen.
Everyone's Irish. Yeah.
But Northern Ireland is not multicultural. It's two cultures, Catholic and Protestant, and very few immigrants because of the Civil War type thing they had there. So we were running this thing, and we saw a whole bunch of people converted. Excitedly, a lot of people from Protestant, nominal, non-Christian Protestant backgrounds, but then a lot of Catholics converted as well, which was awesome and non-surprising because that's who we saw converted in Australia as well. I then moved to EV Church, and EV on the Central Coast is a very, it's a surfy, often Anglo-Saxon, but working middle-class type area. And they've been running a course there called Life for many, many years, very similar to Discover. And we ended up running Discover at EV as well. And it connected really, really well with those guys as well. Big picture is this. It was developed, and I think I've been persuaded and convinced that these courses work the best at reaching adult human beings. And most adult human beings, regardless of their other sort of niche context and culture. And that means you need to be careful about how you run these. You need to think very carefully about the vibe and food and the team involved. But when it comes to the actual content, this is, in God's providence, at this particular moment, the best way of getting people to hear the gospel, for them to engage in it, ask questions, and continue to do so. So it's pitched at that. I want to make it so that the person who's never read the Bible, knows nothing about Jesus, can come and understand. However, it's worth identifying, of course, that the people who become Christians most often are people who've had some kind of Christian interaction in their childhood or teenage years. That could be they've got a Christian auntie, or they went to a Catholic high school even, but there's some plausibility type thing there, which means that they can come into this thinking, hey, there's a chance this is true. So as opposed to sort of a university type, we're going to aim this at atheists and do heaps of apologetics on ... It's not that. Although it still reaches those people because you look at the plausibility of the Bible and the evidence for the resurrection and that type of thing. But we really want to pitch it at people who are open to understanding Christianity. We are convinced, when I say we, the team who've developed Discover and others who run courses like this are convinced that when the Bible in Romans 10 says that the word of Christ is what people need to hear, that's what brings salvation, the word of Christ, that actually there's no part B to evangelism. Our job is to explain the gospel clearly. If people are not Christians, they have not understood the gospel. So our job is to connect dots for people, and that's what I think Discover does really well.
It sounds like you've had a range of different experiences, from MBM, Western Sydney, Belfast, Central Coast of New South Wales. So you've got a range of different options. Like you've had those experiences to help you develop this program and this package. Have you, in all of that time, are there things that you've kind of gone, I've learned not to do that? Are there mistakes that you've made in your role as an evangelist?
Yeah. How long is this podcast meant to go for?
You don't have to confess all your sins. What's been one of the key things that you've learned?
Yeah, very helpful. No, there's a million mistakes that I've made, but in fact, that's one of the great benefits of a course is that it allows you the ability to reflect, to review, and then to go again, and to fix up your changes. There's two key things I'd say that were seminally in importance for me in sort of developing. And the first one was realizing the importance of how we run the course in its effectiveness. By that I mean to say the content is crucial. It's critical. Have confidence that as we proclaim the gospel clearly through the word, people are converted. That's how it works. It does work. I promise you it works. We don't need to pander. We don't need to change things. We just need to do it clearly. But what I identified and saw really effectively over time was that the way we even set up the room, the way we set out seating, it actually does make a difference. For example, when I first started running courses, I'd just have I'd connect like 5 tables together in a U shape and would do dinner, and you'd come in and there was 2 or 3 people helping me. You'd get 15 non-Christians. It was MBM, so a lot of people. 2 or 3 team members. Those 15, some of them would come with people from church. We'd do dinner. We wouldn't put music on or anything. They'd just come in, and sometimes the dinner was late, sometimes whatever. And I just noticed that for 80% of people, that was no problem. But for 20% of people, it was super awkward and really difficult for them. They were very shy and nervous. They didn't know anyone. Sitting there having dinner with people that they'd never met before was very, very hard. It was a very it was like, it would be the equivalent of us going to a TAB to put a bet on, having never betted in our lives, that kind of thing. And so I noticed the churches who saw the most retention of non-Christians, actually, they didn't do that. They started they didn't do one big table, for example. They did small tables. And not tables of 7 or 8 people, but tables of 3 or 4, small little square or circle tables. And that meant that shy people could come and they could sit and say nothing, or they could talk, or they didn't have to talk about a whole range of things with a bunch of people. But instead, that also meant that you needed to have a team. And the team of people from church would be a connection team. And their job is just to sit and make people feel comfortable and warm and not stressed out. So to talk about the football or talk about faith, but whatever. And so the dynamic of that thing, if you pitch it towards the person who is shy, then the people who are not shy will be okay. But if you ignore the shy people or the people who are self-conscious, it means that you'll lose them. And that's a lot of people. Now, that's part of the issue also about gospel ignorance. I also identified, I think early on, I was doing like booklets where at their tables, they'd have to answer a bunch of questions from the Bible. They'd sit around and a table leader would run them through after the talk. But that was really polarizing for people who'd never opened the Bible before. And it made them feel very self-conscious. And so if you've got people for a year, you don't need to do that in the first 5 weeks. Instead, the first 5 weeks can be, you get people chatting, but you do it about icebreakery type questions. What's success in life? Or what's wrong with the world? Get people to talk about those things and allow the tables to just actually build warmth and hospitality because you're giving them very sharp content from the front, gospel content from the front. And you've also got them for a year where you are getting them to discuss things, but you're just easing them in the social element of how you're doing things. So evangelistically sharp, social element. The final thing, I know I've done more than 2, but the final thing is just the key part of follow-up, that if you don't have a what's next, don't do the what. You know, if you don't have a what's next, don't do the what. So for me, that meant as I considered things over the years, I realized, I need to recruit a team. That team need to be people who are from all of church, our different congregations, representing a broad range of demographics. And that team will actually be the ones who gossip the course to the rest of church. The other thing that a team does is it makes you realize that the key funnel of non-Christians into courses, they're not through pre-evangelistic events. They're just the people that your church family know all the time. So you don't need to run this thing off the back of Christmas, thinking Christmas is going to be the thing that sends 100 people in. That doesn't work. Instead, you need to get your church to believe and have confidence that God saves and that he does so during this course. And that takes a bit of time. But yeah, over time, I've realized one of the best principles I can bring into this thing is to never be content with how I've done. Like I want to always improve and work on things and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I want to give you a chance to do a sales pitch. If someone was listening and they said they were thinking of doing a course or perhaps thinking of reviewing which course they should be doing, why would they want to do Discover?
Well,
this is your chance to do a shameless plug, you know.
Yeah, but I'm Australian. I'm Australian. So the way we do shameless plugs is by not doing a shameless plug. You see,
every Australian has said the same thing. Every time I've said this, the other interviews I've done, everyone said, yeah, but I'm an Australian, so I don't do that. So try and be American. Tony Payne said, I've just got to pretend to be American for a moment. So, yeah.
Well, let me do that. This is the best course you'll ever see. No. I'll just offer, I'm persuaded you should be running a course. Discover is not the best course. I don't think there is such a thing as the best course. But the thing about it that's good, that's really good, is that it is faithful. It is a faithful gospel proclamation, explanation. It doesn't pretend to be anything else but that. That's exactly what it is. It comes with pre-written, excellent follow-up that's usable. It's reliable, dependable. It's scalable. It's produced with excellent video, but also with a script that you can use. So if you get to a point where the video, actually there's too many people, you want to do it live, do it that way. It comes with a book, and the idea of the book is that everyone who comes gets this book and they take that home with them and they bring it every week. So it's a booklet through the course, but also it gives sort of reading stuff that's interesting every week as well. So it's designed to think about how we get things to be evangelistically clear, crystal clear about the gospel, but also trying to maximize the social element of things. So running the course properly, thinking through how it connects in with the life of church. So there's a whole bunch of material that's going to be released with Discover about how to do it. So the leader's guide, actually how to run it, how to do it, how to recruit a team, how to get these things going, where I'm going to be talking a lot about that sort of stuff. So I think the best thing about it is that through the power of God and his gospel, it has seen hundreds and hundreds of people converted to Christ. Now, a lot of the courses have. Praise God for that. This is one of them because it does proclaim the gospel. And just for any Aussie listening, it's got my rude head on it talking about it, and that may be a pro, it may be a con. But I want to say, even if you decide to use the scripts, it's got us talking to our people about it, and I think that works really, really well for us. Just want to advocate for it. But I do want to say, in all honesty, as long as you're doing a course that is biblical, reliable, scale, all those things, that I think is the most important thing to think, and then about follow-up. I really think that's critical. I'm very uncomfortable. I released a book last year called What is a Christian? And I didn't put my name on the front. And my wife was like, "Oh, Dave, that's so humble." I'm like, yeah, well, maybe it is humble, but there's also a part of it that I'm just worried if it sucks, I don't want people to associate me with it. I find the whole thing pretty tricky. The final thing I was saying to Pete is, if for those who are interested, I've actually released the audio of the talks as a podcast. So for two reasons. One, as a resource for non-Christian people that your church family can send to people, or that you can. So if you know a non-Christian, hey, here's the talks. And it's just packaged in a way that it's just a gospel explanation over 5 sort of audio tracks. But also for you considering if you want to run the course, you can get a bit of a taster to what's actually in the content. And if you like it, then you can actually hear how I deliver it. If that's something that you want to deliver it, just that can help sort of flesh those things out a little bit. So if you go to Apple or Spotify or whatever and just search Discover, it's got a blue cover, crown of thorns on it, that kind of thing on it. So you'll find it, I'm sure.
We'll have the links in the show notes.
Look
so
at
people
you.
can find that.
Amazing.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
I always promise that on podcasts. I'll put in the show notes. I never done it in my life. So
I know this has not been released properly yet, but you've been using it for a while. Can you give us a story of someone that you've seen whose story has been changed by Jesus?
This year, we started running Discover at my church. I've moved churches this year to a church in Sydney. Under God, praise God, it's just been remarkable to see that the same gospel that saves on the coast, overseas in the West, saves where I am now as well. Coming to my mind immediately is a story of Candace. Candace came to the second time we ran the course this year. Her brother comes to our church and he brought her along. And that's often how it works best, actually, if the Christian brings the non-Christian. And that meant Jesse was bringing Candace, but also that people who are on the team who are the same sort of demographic as Candace sat with her and connected well with her. Over those 5 weeks, Candace heard enough of the gospel to think, hold on, I'm not a Christian. And that's one of the things that courses like this do. They unconvert people from fake Christianity. And so she heard enough there to provoke her a little bit in a good way, but was not converted at the end of the 5 weeks. It was close in personal conversation. You could tell as much as we can that God was at work, but wasn't there. Thankfully, she joined the follow-up group, which is, by the way, we call More to Discover. So More to Discover is a follow-up Bible study group. And in the first 6 weeks, we went through the Gospel of Mark. In the Gospel of Mark, she was talking. It was obvious that something was happening, that she was getting closer and closer, but still we're kind of waiting there, not quite sure. At the end of the Gospel of Mark, we started to look at Colossians. Now, we don't normally do that, but there's a reason why, but whatever the case. So we're doing Colossians, and it was in the first week of Colossians, in Colossians 1, that incredible chapter, of course, that Candace was different. She was noticeably different and noticeably engaged and she began to talk about this change that had happened to her in the way that she thought about her faith and her realization that, hey, hold on, that this isn't bad news. This is the greatest news I've ever heard. And she's sort of, she's blushing and she's just sort of overflowing with joy, but doesn't quite know how to categorize it. And it was one of the other people in the Bible study who has been converted, who said, Candace, you've become a Christian. We're pretty sure you've become a you've changed. And we talked with her about Jesus, and it was just evident. And it's obvious now, weeks on from that Candace has become a Christian. Now, she was there sitting next to 5 or 6 other people who have all become Christians in the last month or two through this, some of whom have connected in a range of ways. These are people who have got a Greek background, Portuguese background, Lebanese background, Aussie background, Asian background, all sorts. And yet, remarkably, God does what he promises he will do. He saves people through the power of his Spirit as they hear the word over time. And I love it, but I also get a little bit... it drives me forward, Pete, because the thought of throwing Candace after 5 weeks into the Leviticus Bible study group she would have been in, is tragic. She just would have, she would not have understood whatsoever. And praise God that, I've just been able to witness through courses, not just through Discover, but a range of courses, this type of thing happen again and again and again and again, thousands and thousands of times. So, much to be encouraged by.
It's really encouraging again to hear that story of it's not just the 5 weeks, it's the follow-up, it's the long journey. It's, as you've said several times, it's the word plus time plus people. It's all of that together that makes the whole thing work.
That was Dave, Jensen, and the Discover course. It will be available from the Matthias Media website, so keep an eye out for it. If you're not running a course, this could be the one to kick things off. But whatever you do something. I'm Pete Hughes. Chat soon.